In the next 10 years, with AI coming in, it's a failure. This can't sustain.
Tell me why your marriage is falling apart.
It's just work, right? When I was in 6th or 7th, let's build AI models. It was easier. 8 to 9 million patients across US jump out of planes.
For men, how would you suggest that they should handle mental stress and mental health?
Be disciplined.
Hi, my name is Amit Shankar and I'm so glad to have all of you here. And today is a very special day. It's special because today we are going to shoot the first podcast for the Better Men Project. And for this first podcast, which of course is very special, we have a very special guest too. And in this podcast, I'm going to introduce to you Ganesh, a dear friend of mine, who's a techpreneur, who's a VC, who's an avid golfer, adrenaline junkie, a skydiver, and whatnot. And I'm sure that you're going to love this podcast. So be ready for the show. All right, so here we are with my friend Ganesh. And Ganesh, आपका द बेटर मैन प्रोजेक्ट के पहले पॉडकास्ट में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है.
Good to be here.
गणेश, जिन लोगों को नहीं पता है, गणेश is a tech founder turned investor, and to add to his list, he's an engineer, he's a coder, and last but not the least, he is also a college dropout. So Ganesh, tell me, now that you have achieved a certain amount of success in life, does the tag of being a college dropout still bother you?
I don't think it ever bothered me. Since the day I dropped out of college, I might as well just be advertising that I'm a college dropout in wherever I am. Whatever meetings that I go to, even when I was doing my recent fundraise for the Taiki Ventures Fund. My partners are, one of them is an IIT Delhi engineer, the other one is IIT Delhi plus IIM Ahmedabad guy, and me being a college dropout. So we used to advertise it that hey, we have a complete picture. So I think it has always been a advantage rather than a disadvantage.
So if I read you correctly, you have used your college dropout thing as portraying yourself as an underdog who has come a long way?
Not exactly underdog. I probably portray myself as being more free, not following the norms, and just an expansive state of being.
All right, tell me something. In today's scenario where degrees have assumed much importance, parents are forcing their kids to go for higher education, Ivy League. I mean, Ivy League is the new norm. मेरे बेटे को या मेरी बेटी को Ivy League में जाना है. How do you see this whole facade or this whole thrust towards higher degree and the Ivy League and,
So in the next 10 years, with AI coming in, I don't think education will be what it is right now anyway. These days, if I don't know anything, usually people used to depend on that knowledge, and that's why they used to go for college degrees. Hey, I want to learn computer science, let's do computer science engineering. If I want to learn advanced physics, then do physics honors or something like that. But these days, you just need an intent, be smarter on how to utilize whatever technologies are available to the date, and you can anyways learn all of that. So I think in the next 10 years, we'll probably be looking at a very different kind of a scenario where college degrees are not so important. The only important skills at the end of the day are going to be how well you can communicate, how well you can structure your thoughts, how well you can be disciplined, if I can present it like that, and not the specialization. The AI is going to be the specialist, and you will just be a very trained, highly disciplined leader as to what you want to get done. So it will be a very different scenario.
So if I read you correctly, what you are trying to say that it's soft skills which would matter more than a degree which you have been flaunting till now?
I wouldn't put it as flaunting. I would say that to be special, you needed expertise. And to learn that expertise, the general path, just the general, I'm not saying the only path, the general path was to go to a college, get trained under experienced professors, teachers, do research papers, and then come out and start using those kind of experiences. But even with me, what happened with my career was I got introduced to internet when I was in 6th or 7th. I started learning on my own, so I never went to a proper college. And I can say that I'm a very good coder. So I didn't need a college path to follow this route. And now with AI coming in, it's going to be much, much easier. In my generation, I would say if you want to learn computers or coding or internet IT stuff, it was easier because everything was on internet already. But the rest of the stuff was not there. So for the rest of the stuff, you still needed to go to college. There's a reason why almost 90% of the college dropouts are into technology, are into building apps, mobile apps and everything. They are not doing other stuff. They are not like creating paste companies or manufacturing companies. They never do that. The MBAs do all that. So that was my generation. And now moving forward, I think with AI coming in, the other industries are also going to lock up for the college dropouts. So if you are really good at, if you are confident, if you're good with communications, if you have the leadership skills, maybe as soon as you turn 18, 19, finish your high school and just explore.
So you are saying that in days and years to come, IITs could be a thing of the past, and without even going to an IIT, I can be a successful techpreneur.
So I think both these worlds will exist in parallel. It entirely depends on how you are as a human being and what your capabilities and skills are. If you want to go the without IIT path, then you would have all the tools available for you to do so, which was not the case earlier. If you still want to go to a college, follow the normal path, I don't think they're going in an extension phase. I think those colleges will also start improving. Right now, a lot of the college studies, which I have heard from my friends, is mostly into academics, research papers, in theory. Practicality comes in at a later stage. It does come in, but it comes in at a later stage. If you go the college dropout, the more entrepreneurial spirit route, I think experimentation starts from day one and you learn on the go. And I think, I personally feel that that's much more, to me, it has been much more helpful than a normal theory class.
So, by any stretch of imagination, are you trying to imply that lack of formal college degree, lack of formal and structured education per se, gave you more expanse, more vision, and more freedom to set your own paradigm?
So more imagination, more freedom, yes, but it also comes with, we have only talked about the pros so far, but let me give you some cons. When I started, it was a huge expanse. Then while I started working, then I kind of tried to shrink it down as to where I need to focus. And that shrinking and making sure, identifying where to focus on, how to focus on, that's the difficult part. So if you go the entrepreneurial route, then you have the expanse, but you can get lost in that expanse. So then train your mind, train your body, be disciplined. I know you can do multiple things to do that, and that's the tough part. But if you do that, then it's all good. But otherwise, you can just get lost.
If given a chance again, would you take the same path or would you take the IIT path?
I will take the same path, and I'll probably, now that I know all the mistakes that I did and how much time it took me to learn this kind of a focused approach, I'll probably start doing that from day one. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, Ganesh, when I hear the term techpreneur and a VC, the image which comes to my mind is, or the life which comes to my mind is that of constant hustle and aggression and go out attitude. How would you describe your life?
I think it's much more freer than people have a conception about such tech entrepreneur life. I do not think it is aggressive in a sense that you keep chasing all the time. Initially, when you start out, you do that. For the first, I would say, till your first breakout, you do that. You hustle, and there is nothing else that matters to you. You just keep working and you work your ass off. And then you have your first breakout. Once the first breakout is done, then you can probably introduce the term work-life balance. Before that, I would advise that I just hustle.
Okay, so that brings to my next question. Work-life balance is a much talked about, used, rather abused terms these days, especially for men. How would you define work-life balance in context of a man 30 plus working or an entrepreneur who is trying to find this sanity between his demanding schedule, home, wife, kids, school, parent-teacher meeting, his personal growth, ambition, and all of that?
I have a busy schedule at work. I don't necessarily feel that it occupies, or it should occupy, more than half of your day. Less than that. And if it is occupying more than that, then you have reached a point where you really need to scale yourself and your team. And if you're not doing that and getting stressed, then you're doing something wrong. So in a sense, I would emphasize again that learn how to manage your time, value your time. Don't let people take advantage of your time, and then life becomes less stressful on its own. So it's just work, right? So you are starting something and you are then signing up that, hey, you are building a company or creating an application or building a project, whatever you are involved with. You need to learn how to manage your thoughts, what days to push yourself harder, what days to just take a break. Don't think of anything else. Learn how to sit idle. Just simple stuff. It's not complicated at all.
Point you taken, and point well you described by you, but you can probably romanticize this whole term called work-life balance because you're a self-employed man. Tell me how work-life balance works for someone who's working for someone who has got a team, who has got a boss, who's got a super boss, where his life is largely controlled by the diktat of his bosses.
Even when you're working in such an environment, everybody, even your bosses, you have certain KPIs which you need to achieve, right? So as long as you are achieving that, I don't think anybody generally interferes. So how you achieve that is where, again, what I previously mentioned, all of that cycle comes in. So let's say you're my boss. You give me a certain KPI that, hey, I'm an engineer, so let's take an application, an example of an app build. So you give me a KPI that, hey, in 90 days, we need to build this. And then you walk away. And I'm handling tech for you. And you have other marketing teams and everything. So you start focusing that, you have given me a KPI, and then you walk away. So it is my job to manage the next 90 days in a way that it is not stressful for myself, not stressful for the developers and engineers and the QA and the designers who are working for me. If I can do that perfectly, then I don't necessarily feel there is a trouble. If you are not able to do all that, then you are stressing the people that who are reporting to you. And if you're not able to deliver that KPI, then you're also stressing your boss. And that's where I think the awkward conversations start coming into play.
Work-life balance leads me to my next question, which is of this term called burnout. So burnout is again, in today's scenario, a much used and abused term. Oh, I'm facing this complete...
It's a bastardized term.
Correct. So how would you react to the term burnout?
I don't think.
And had you experienced burnout in your career?
I don't think so. So burnout generally is when you are taking the previous example, if you are in a stressful situation and then, hey, you are not able to deliver. And then beyond 90 days, it's taking you another 30 days and you're constantly working for 120 days, for example. And then you start feeling the burnout because one, you are coming to work every day under a pretext that, hey, you are delivering slow. So there is a mental stress already that you are going through. And I think that creates the burnout rather than the physical effort. Personally, when I started, I was super hungry that I never felt burnout. I don't necessarily feel burnout is part of my life anymore. Again, because it's just managed nicely. I have people who are super skilled, who are A-game players. They don't feel the burnout. They keep delivering on time. I am able to deliver because of them. I am able to deliver everything that I am supposed to deliver because I am delivering everything right. And there is a food chain. I also have people that I report to. They are delivering everything at organization level. So I think it's a chain reaction. So if you have any one of these links in a stressful situation, the entire link will feel that stress and the burnout phase. So I think monitoring the team's mental state, how they feel about life, how hungry they are for what you are doing, I think it's a very large topic. We can sit and explore for hours and hours.
So good to know that in today's time, I have finally met a man who says that work-life balance is fine and burnout is just a bastardized term, as you put it. But I think it would be fair to assume that your journey would not have been a bed of roses. There would have been thorns too. But now tell me, how have you managed failures which must have come along your way?
I'll give an example and then we will talk about how I managed failures. So earlier in my life, I was a CTO at a healthcare tech startup. We built a very successful electronic health record system for the dermatology world. It currently serves 8 to 9 million patients across US and Canada. Yeah, I was with them from 2016 till 2021. I am a self-taught coder. So I don't know, and I didn't know at that time, the industry best practices on how to build applications which can sustain high loads of traffic. I built a mediocre application. I had a team and everything. We built a mediocre application because the lack of knowledge did exist there. We went to market, we had immense growth. The application started breaking. My bosses were screaming that, hey, if people can't use, we can't run a business. And we used to do patchwork every day. We used to deliver some small fixes every day. Then I suddenly had a realization that, hey, the way it is built right now, it's a failure. This can't sustain. Neither can we grow in the amount of loads that it can take. Since you asked the question and framed it in the sense of a failure, so I don't necessarily felt that it was a failure as such. I just felt that it was something that needs to be first learned, experienced, planned in a way that I can just overcome that situation. So I would rather call it a tough situation rather than failure. And I've had multiple such situations in the past. And every time the logic has been, okay, scratch everything, clean white slate, and just figure out what can be done. Either learn it yourself, either bring people who can fill that gap, and then just move forward. But the forward is the battle cry, I would say, is a motto that I have been following.
So if I read you correctly, you turned failure into your building blocks, introspect, analyze, and charter the course ahead for a better product and for a failure-proof delivery, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just me. If you look at, it's not like I was born with this kind of a mindset. I had to think about it, introspect, develop it on the go. And almost all the tech leaders that I fantasize or follow, they have all had multiple mistakes. They have had more failures. They have had 1,000 failures. It's not like they're not successful. They have overcome them all. And I think that's the only way to look at a failure. Just look at it as a situation. Figure out, hey, can I fix this situation? Okay, I can't. This is outside my purview. Either go for advice to your team or in whatever capacity and just handle that situation. So handling that situation is more important.
Now, handling this work-life balance, burnout, failure, building block, introspection, going back to the drawing board, I'm sure it must lead to a certain kind of mental stress and mental fatigue. Which brings to my next question of this term called mental stress and mental health. For men 30 plus who are working or who are running their own show, how would you suggest that they should handle mental stress and mental health?
Luckily, I was introduced to meditation. I don't know how it started. I think I used to have these yoga and meditation classes at school, learned deep breathing techniques and everything earlier in my life. And suddenly while I started working, then I felt the need to calming myself every now and then so I can make appropriate choices and everything. So I started doing breath work. So meditation definitely helps. I would, in the order of things, I would say that meditation is number one. Second, I started journaling.
Okay.
I only started doing that a year and a half ago. That has been it has opened up different perspectives which I was never aware of before. So I don't do it regularly. I don't do it every day. I don't think I'm trying to document my life. I probably get back to journaling every fortnight.
Okay.
On a weekend. And then I talk about all the businesses I am part of, what I intend to do with each one of them. Then I write about what kind of personal growth do I want, what are the elements in my life which I want to improve on. For example, in January last year, I've told myself that, hey, you need to read at least 25 to 30 books this year.
Okay.
So I do all that. And that definitely helps.
I'm surprised that you have discussed this term called journaling. I have spoken to many men, and trust me, when I bring up yoga, they say, yeah, yoga helps. But whenever I've tried to discuss or talk about journaling, most of the men I've spoken to, they think journaling to be something very sissy, something which is largely restricted to girls and women only. So I would like your viewpoint a little more. If you could talk how to structure your journaling and how to use journaling for your better growth.
All the great men of history who I've tried to study, they all journal.
So do you have a diary kind of thing on which you journal, or use your iPhone or iPad or what?
So I'm a techie, so I use my iPad and everything. They're digital notes.
Okay.
And coming back to the men in history part, so have you heard of that book, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius?
Yeah.
So it's not a book. So that was his own thoughts that he was writing for himself. He was a Roman emperor. So there is nothing to be sissy about if you are journaling.
Okay.
That's why I gave that particular example. He's a Roman emperor, like have different kind of thoughts.
Right. Correct.
And now on structuring journalism, I don't think there is a set formula. Just be as free as you can and just let your thoughts run wild when you're journaling. The reason why I journal is I can stand in a balcony, look at a nice view and introspect. That's one way of doing it. Most people do that. I also started doing it. Now things are getting much more complex and that needs a different kind of intervention. So then I felt, okay, let's start journaling. So that was my beginning of how I started doing that. And when I journal, I just write a date, time, and the place where I am sitting at that time. It keeps it interesting because sometimes I'm on a vacation or traveling. I have a nice view, then I take a picture of that and then put it at the top of before I start writing. And that's a little entertaining. I don't necessarily think I write about or doubt my feelings a lot if I'm not extremely happy or in a different kind of a vibe, and I do write it. But I don't generally, journaling for me is not to just keep talking about feelings. I try to start with feelings and then I just, as I explained, just go through all the things that are happening in my life, be it work, be it bike riding, be it golf. I probably want to figure out, hey, what do I do? What do I want to do with my business? And that's journaling for me.
Okay, tell me something. While journaling, how honest are you about expressing your real feelings at that moment? Or being a man, do you try to edit your thoughts and then put your thoughts in your journaling?
So if you edit, then there's no point to journal. Okay, then you might as well just be talking to your friends and you're not, there are a lot of situations where you're not 100% honest. You're not letting your true self come out. If you're journaling, I would advise that just take everything out. Journaling is not something that you put a filter on and that right. Journaling is probably something, no filter, you are writing what you are thinking about at that point of time.
What kind of personal emotions and thoughts you use journaling for, or is journaling for you largely about professional goals, achievements and dreams only?
I never generally had problems with controlling my emotions or just being carried away by them. I probably don't spend too much time just dwelling in feelings, but I do touch. I think inherently it's a smaller portion of my thoughts.
Because I've known a few men who do journal and they spend too much time and too much energy trying to pour out the emotional side of them while journaling. Now what happens that when they are journaling and when they are talking of all the nasty stuff, all the dark side, all the negative things which have been going in their lives, it finds a kind of a loop. And their journal is nothing but an outpour of the darkest.
Echo chamber.
Yeah. And it keeps going on and on and on. And then the same thoughts are going in their mind and the same thoughts are being reflected in the journaling and they get more sucked into that vortex.
So journaling is not something that, if you are in negative state of mind, I would probably suggest that instead of going this exploratory route, just get some guidance.
Have you ever taken some kind of counseling or therapy?
I've never had the need.
Okay.
But I'm open to it.
Okay.
It's not like, I'm not saying in a sense that, hey, therapy is bad. Like journalism is sissy.
Okay.
Not in that sense. But if you are going extremely negative in your thoughts, it's super important to control your thoughts. If you're not able to have a very deep sense of, hey, the thought that I just had, that's not a nice one. If you don't have that judgment, then you should probably look for guidance. It lets you explore your thought process. It lets you explore a lot of things very, very deeply, but it is not a fix or a solution. Controlling negative thoughts, whatever you can do at a personal capacity, do. Analyze your thoughts properly. If you're not able to do it on your own, then just get guidance.
Have you ever been in a spot in your life where it was all dark, gloomy, nefarious, and you had to really find your way out of that spot? And there may be a personal loss or loss at work or some kind of failure.
You experience all that, take a day off. Just gather all your thoughts and then look straight up ahead, bounce back. And there have been multiple, that's why I keep saying, instead of using the word as failure, multiple situations.
If you would like to share one such situation with our viewers.
Let's take loss in business.
Okay.
So no business is hunky-dory. No business is up only. It always goes like this. Earlier in my life, when I started working, I used to think it's up only.
Yeah.
I had some good success, then I had a downturn, and those first initial downturns were a little difficult for me. The amount of time it took me to bounce back from those downturns was, I won't say it was super large. It was a little bit more than how it is now.
No, so how did you manage that time and your mental frame of mind, and what all did you do to come out of that?
So at that point of time, since we were talking early career, I did not even start meditation as a habit.
Right.
That time it was purely my thoughts, self-introspection, spending time in your thoughts, figuring out what went wrong, what did not go wrong. And it's not like, hey, something has happened in business and suddenly the next minute you start doing all that. You take your time off. You sleep it off a day, to take a break, go away for the weekend or something like that. And then when you are feeling fresh again from here, when you're feeling fresh again and you sit and you just break it down step. Then
That brings me to a larger question. A question which the Betterment Project has been trying to explore for a while now. How do you define the term man in the year 2025?
if you're doing something, it needs to have a purpose. For example, I'll take my time when I was the CTO at the healthcare startup. My purpose at that time was to only build the healthcare application. And the CEO who I was reporting to, he's an American guy. He's a very well-known plastic surgeon in US. His thought process was always, hey, we are building this so doctors can spend less time documenting stuff and spend more time giving patient care.
Yeah.
And that was the first time in my life I heard a purposeful purpose. Once we started going from there, we already achieved that. Then his purpose changed to, let's go beyond patient care. Let's build AI models which can analyze data and auto-suggest doctors on what to advise on, not advising the patient directly, to provide an extensive and comprehensive summary to the doctor before the doctor explains it to the patient. So the amount of mistakes which the medical professional is doing, it reduces. Again, with the intention that, hey, if those mistakes are reduced, then you are getting the proper medication and the proper advice. So, and his purpose also kept switching.
Well said, Ganesh, that a man is a man who has got a purpose in life, so that he's more focused, he's more precise, he's more concise, he's more driven, he's more motivated, he feels more inspired. Now, with that articulation of man which has come from you, how would you see the relationship of the man is a man with a purpose, but the woman in this question is a woman without any purpose?
Involve her in your purpose. I think that's the best way to make sure everything works in sync.
How would you involve your wife in the building app process which had a purpose?
Probably my team's purpose is that.
Okay.
My purpose right now would be to create employment. And if you have that kind of a purpose which is not technical, not like app building, it's a good purpose to have. Then you can involve your wife.
How important is a woman to a man's success and purpose?
It's easier if things are aligned at home, let me put it that way.
Does it take any form of a special care, a special thought, a special action to keep your partner aligned to yourself, to your home, to your goal, to your purpose, as you have put it?
It's not like I'm 100% successful in doing so, but there is an effort.
Yeah.
And it takes an effort. So make sure to communicate and make an effort.
So if a man with a purpose makes his purpose to keep his partner or his spouse happy, engaged and aligned to his goal and his purpose, life becomes better?
It does. And it also helps you go through life situations in a much more settled way.
So then tell me, why are marriages falling apart?
Well, negative thoughts. If you can't control your negative thoughts, who would want to be with negative thoughts? I don't necessarily feel that work life, normal life your life, your home life, they are all separate things. If you keep it separate, then you are intentionally creating boundaries between your act. If you take it as one wholeness, it becomes much easier. I would say that that's the first step you need to do. Control your negative thoughts. Top priority. Once you are past that, then I think this wholeness formula.
All right, this brings to my last question of the day. How would you rate the Betterment Project, and what would be your tips for the Betterment Project to do well and better?
I don't think I've seen anything like this in India or even outside. There are private closed door groups, but nobody is trying to project all this the way that you are with the events. The one which you did last week was a fantastic one. Thank you. Podcasts like this where we are openly talking about all this. And I don't necessarily have any tips to offer because I think you're already doing it in a very perfect sense. I would just say just scale as much as you can.
Thank you so much, Ganesh. Just one filler question. How would you define yourself? Who is real Ganesh? If you could articulate that for me.
Fearless, I drive fast bikes. I go for adventures, jump out of planes. I think all that also helps with work, with also being fearless there. Maybe I wouldn't say I am fearless, I would say I'm trying to be fearless.
So Ganesh is a man with purpose, who's fearless, who's self-driven, who is very sensitive about the thoughts which chances to cross his mind. He loves to do journaling. He is a man without any silos, who does not believe in the concept of work-life balance because work is life and life is worth, and there are no boundaries or there are no boxes which defines ye ghar ki life hai, ye bahar ki life hai, right? Would you like to add into?
I mean, I've never thought of my life in that kind of a lens. I'm just living and doing whatever I want, whenever I want, and being thoughtful and mindful about it.
Ganesh, thank you so much for being a part of the first podcast of the Betterment Project. It was immense pleasure having you here, and I'm sure your views would go a long way in providing men with the kind of impetus they need for making their lives be better. And as we have gathered, man is a man with purpose, and if this man with purpose can be fearless also, that would be an added bonus.
Little things we can do.
Thank you so much, Ganesh. Thank you. Oh, that was a heady one. If knowledge, if insight, if wisdom could all come into one, it's this podcast. I'm so glad that we got Ganesh for this podcast, and Ganesh was kind and open enough to share his journey, his fears, his insights, his hacks. And I'm sure all these would go a long way in making life of men better. So you better get glued to this podcast, note down his tips, and focus on getting away from negative thoughts. And if there are any, use journaling. And as Ganesh has said, a man is a man with purpose, a man who is fearless, a man who breaks the silos, and a man who stands tall to what he believes in. So I hope you like the podcast. Thank you.